with this? Well, Michaela Mayer posted this via her Twitter account. It reads, "Hey, United Kingdom. Finally making my way over to see you guys next week. Happy to be joining the Sky Sports Boxing broadcast team for Eubank Jr. versus Williams, and of course, Shields versus Cousin on February 5th. Be sure to tune in and see you soon. Cheerio." We now know more about the nature of Michaela's trip. It's a business trip for some commentator work. I initially thought this might herald what could be negotiations for a Mayer versus Jonas fight, and I don't dismiss that possibility because Michaela Mayer, as I stated in my previous video, is the only champion within arm's reach of Natasha Jonas. The only drawback is whether or not Natasha can still make super featherweight. Her fight with Katie Taylor, that was obviously at lightweight. You have to wonder, at this age, how well Natasha Jonas can make the 130-pound limit. Can she make it healthy? Can she make it fighting fit? It's not just making the weight, it's making the weight well enough to perform.
I still view Mayer versus Jonas as a distinct possibility.
I think the door is pretty much closed for a Katie Taylor rematch. I don't see that happening. I mean, even if the Amandia Serrano negotiations were to fall apart, I am hearing rumors and rumblings that those negotiations have hit a snag. But even if that fight dematerialized, I don't view Natasha Jonas as a potential opponent option for Katie anymore. I'd sooner expect Katie to fight Jessica McCaskill for a second time, perhaps somewhere between 140 and 147 pounds at a catch weight.
I don't see Taylor versus Jonas 2 happening.
So if Natasha Jonas wants to challenge for a world title, the only world titles within arm's reach are in the super featherweight division. If by some chance things were to fall apart between Chantel Cameron and Kaylee Rice, they're supposed to be having their undisputed title fight at 140 pounds. Perhaps Kaylee Rice, who is a unified champion and isn't a matchroom fighter, perhaps Kaylee Rice would emerge as a potential opponent option for Natasha Jonas. Natasha Jonas, who I think could make 140 pounds quite comfortably. Her optimal weight might be lightweight, but at 140, I think she can bang. I think she'd do all right.
Fight ain't done until the fight's done.
And that Cameron versus Rice fight, it ain't done. There ain't no official announcement, no official date. We don't know when that's supposed to be going down. Not but a few days ago, I heard a rumor that those negotiations may have hit a snag, that something's going on, something might be going wrong. The beauty of all this is that there are that many more options for a fighter like a Kaylee Rice, that if things aren't working out between Chantel, Matchroom, and you've got Sky Sports to turn to.
I'd be fucking disappointed if that fight fell apart.
We have to take note that we are a full month into the year of 2022 and still no confirmation, still no official fight date. We don't know when that fight's supposed to be happening, if it's happening. You have to consider that when one door closes, another one opens. If things for some reason don't work out between Kaylee Rice and the Chantel Cameron people, Kaylee Rice can take those 2 world titles and see what they're worth to the people over there at Sky Sports and Boxer, see if they're not willing to put up some scratch, put up some cash for a Rice versus Jonas fight. Natasha Jonas wants to fight for titles. They might be Michaela Mayer's or someone else's.
Could end up fighting Kaylee Rice if things don't work out between Rice and Cameron.
What they say, boxing is the theater of the unexpected. Case in point, in the men's super flyweight division, news broke earlier today that Chocolatito's not going to be boxing Juan Francisco Estrada for a third time. Instead, Juan's countryman, Julio Cesar Martinez, he's going to be standing in his place instead. Julio, who reigns as the WBC's flyweight champion, and to that, IBF flyweight champion of the United Kingdom, Sonny Edwards said, "Been sat here waiting for months now, trying to get the Martinez fight. Went cold a bit ago, and now it's looking like he's moving up in weight. I told you a long time, Eddie, didn't want nothing to do with me. Great fight, Chocolatito versus Martinez, though." And
Sonny wants vengeance for his brother Charlie.
Charlie Edwards, Sonny's brother, who faced Julio some time ago. Julio battered him, he did, though he hit him when he was down, thus he was DQ'd, and there was no rematch between them.
So is the door closed for Edwards versus Martinez?
Not according to Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn says he'll be back at flyweight afterwards to unify. The little crazy mofo just wanted that Chocolatito smoke.
So this doesn't herald the beginning of a super flyweight campaign.
Now, up until recently, Sonny Edwards was a Frank Warren Queensbury Promotions fighter, but that business partnership has since ended. Sonny Edwards is now going to be fighting on a Pro Bellum card.
I'm not sure if he's a pro bellum fighter, though it will be the second time he fights under the banner.
He fought Jason Mama late last year, unbeaten Jason Mama, over there at the Coca-Cola Arena in Dubai as part of a Pro Bellum card, and here he is again fighting on yet another Pro Bellum card. I know of no announcement, no formal announcement heralding a partnership between Sonny and the people over there at Pro Bellum, though I reiterate, this will be the second time he participates on one of their cards.
Participates? He's the fucking headliner.
That's right, he's not just participating on these things, he's not just
just.
decorating an undercard, he's the headliner. This will be the second time.
This will be the second time Sonny Edwards headlines a pro bellum card.
This will be the second time he fights over there in Dubai where Daniel Kinahan is based out of. Daniel Kinahan of MTK.
You know Sonny Edwards is an MTK fighter.
Coincidence? I think not!
The door's open to make an Edwards versus Martinez unification match.
Regardless of what happens between Julio Cesar Martinez and Roman Gonzalez, whether Julio wins or Julio loses, he seems set to return to the flyweight division, where afterwards he can see about unifying titles with Sonny Edwards. I mean, granted that Pro Bellum is the fledgling promotional outfit that's been harvesting fighters, harvesting talent, a lot of talent, forming relationships, a lot of relationships as of late. But I don't think making a fight like that between Sonny and Julio, I don't think that would be a problem, even if Sonny is with Pro Bellum, unofficially or officially.
That fight can happen.
Gonna see Regis Prograis on the undercard of Sonny Edwards' next fight against Wassa. This time, Regis Prograis, he's going to be taking care of Tyrone McKenna. Tyrone McKenna of the UK, who lost one to Jack Catterall a ways back. More recently, lost one to O'Hara Davies. He's coming off a win over Jose Felix. He capped off last year with that win over Jose Felix, and now he's going to be taking on former 140-pound champion Regis Prograis in what really isn't a high-profile fight for Regis. I mean, a lot of people are waiting for Regis to face the Subriel Matiases and perhaps Josh Taylor for a second time. Those kind of guys, those fighters of the world. And things are a little bit political at 140 pounds. Right now, Top Rank, for the most part, they've got the run of the place. They've got Josh Taylor, and Josh Taylor, he's got all the belts, all the titles, all the Alphabet titles, the Ring Magazine title. Subriel Matias was last in action this past weekend on the undercard of Russell versus Magsayo. It seems like Subriel Matias is on the PBC side of things at the moment. We know Josh Taylor, Jose Zapata,
Jose Ramirez, Jose Pedraza,
Teofimo Lopez when he comes back. That portion of the 140-pound division, they fight on Top Rank cards. They fight on ESPN, those guys. That's where you can find them. And Regis is a Pro Bellum fighter. He did sign to Pro Bellum.
I can't lie to you, this ain't a high-profile fight for Regis.
It feels like since the World Boxing Super Series ended, when Regis last participated in it, his career's been in limbo and he's just been all over the place. A brief stint on PBC Island, then a brief stint on Triller where he faced Ivan Redkach, and now he's with Pro Bellum. He's going to be facing Tyrone McKenna, and you know what Regis can do. You know what level of competitor he is, and it feels like he's not competing to his potential. But I'll tell you this much, at least he's keeping busy. At least he's staying active. We know of at least 2 champions, one former, that in the last 12 months, one in the last 2 years, have done a hell of a lot.
Before this past weekend, Gary Russell Jr. didn't defend his title in the last 2 years.
He lost that WBC featherweight title this past weekend. In the last 12 months, Leo Santa Cruz, the reigning WBA champion at featherweight, he hasn't fought either. So when I see Regis, a former champion, keeping busier than 2 active reigning world champions, I tell myself, hey, at least he's doing that because that's more than those guys are doing. I'm not mad at the fight. I want to see Regis in a better fight, I will admit, but I'm not mad if he's keeping busy with this guy, because who's in a hurry to fight him anyway?
Is there a better fight that he rejected to fight this guy?
Is there some better option out there for him? Some better option that he walked away from that I don't know about? Because near as I can tell, nobody at 140 pounds seems to be in any hurry to fight this guy. In other news, per tweet from Michael Benson, it has been announced that Amir Khan versus Kell Brock will be shown live on ESPN Plus in the United States February 19th. If only the same rung true for the February 5th card between Chris Eubank Jr. and Liam Williams. On the undercard, Clarissa Shields is going to be taking on unbeaten Emma Kozin, and it seems to me that that kind of card don't belong behind a paywall, but for the Americans, for us guys here in the United States, that's where it is. If you want to see Williams versus Eubank, you've got to pay per view, and it is a moderately priced pay-per-view. It's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. It's going to be featured on Fight TV. I believe it's Fight TV.
Whereas Khan versus Brook is going to be on ESPN+.
Now, to a boxing fan, it doesn't make sense for Eubank Jr. versus Williams to be a pay-per-view where we're getting Khan versus Brook as part of our ESPN Plus subscription. To a boxing fan, that's not going to make a lot of sense, but to ESPN Plus, it might. You see, ESPN Plus knows that Americans are more familiar with Amir Khan and Kell Brook than they are familiar with Chris Eubank Jr. and Liam Williams. Most Americans, they haven't seen those guys in action. They don't know who they are. Whereas with Amir Khan and Kell Brook, they do know those guys, so they thought enough of that fight to pick it up. Perhaps the reason that Eubank versus Williams is going to be a pay-per-view, going to be behind a paywall on an obscure app that most Americans really aren't all that familiar with. Perhaps the reason for this is because ESPN Plus didn't want to pick it up.
Perhaps that's the reason. One is going to be a pay-per-view and one isn't.
Here in America, at least, and here in America, the name of Chris Eubank Jr. doesn't yield the same fact, the same marquee value, as it were, that it does in the United Kingdom. Here in America,
I'm not telling you he's a huge draw over there. I'm just telling you he's more of a draw over there than he is over here.
And that's why to a boxing fan, it's not going to make much sense paying a pay-per-view cover charge, even a modest one, to see Chris Eubank Jr. in action. You're going to see Khan versus Brook as part of your ESPN subscription.
To an American boxing fan, that's not going to make much sense.
But I think because ESPN Plus didn't care enough about that card to pick it up, that's why it ended up on an obscure app as a pay-per-view. That's what I think led to that.
And I don't know, maybe that'll change in the next week or so.
I sincerely doubt it will, but you never know. Boxing is the theater of the unexpected. That card's set to go down early next month on the 5th, a little over a week away. It's a little over a week away.
And shortly after that, we get Khan versus Brook.
As part of a trio of cards, Sky Sports is going to be kicking off their boxing programming with Eubank versus Williams on the 5th, Khan versus Brook on the 19th, then Josh Taylor versus Jack Catterall on the 26th, towards the end of the month.
That's how Sky's starting off 2022.
Finally, in men's super bantamweight news, former unified super bantamweight champion Daniel Roman took to social media and stated, "Saw the Cool Boy Steph interview on Showtime Boxing." That interview took place this past weekend on the undercard of Russell versus Mixayo, and he seems to disregard the fact that I'm his next opponent as mandated by the WBC and WBO, not MJ Akhmadaliev or Brandon Figueroa. You wanted me a few fights ago, and you finally got me. No need to keep my name out of your mouth. Hashtag boxing, hashtag strap season. A member of Daniel Roman's team that goes by the name Jessica Potter, she echoed that sentiment, stating facts. You've got Danny next. No need to act brand new to his name, Cool Boy Steph. We're coming for those straps. Roman is the true 122-pound king in the division. At this time, Cool Boy Steph does seem to be more interested in other fights, other endeavors, than what he's been ordered to do. He's been ordered, jointly, by the way,
by both the WBC and the WBO to fight Daniel Roman.
Stephen Fulton had a very big year last year. He beat two unbeaten champions, took their straps, and effectively became one of two unified champions in the super bantamweight division.
He's been saying he wants to become this division's undisputed champion.
He's mentioned the only other unified champion at this weight, MJ Akhmadaliev, by name. He knows if he wants to see that dream realized, that's the guy that he's got to go through. The problem is the politics of boxing. MJ Akhmadaliev is a matchroom fighter, whereas Stephen Fulton, he seems to fight exclusively on Showtime. So there are issues with that fight, and that's what I've been telling you guys the whole time. At this time, MJ Akhmadaliev is under an order from the WBA.
He's under orders to fight his WBA mandatory challenger, Ronnie Rios.
As of yesterday, he's been given 90 days to negotiate a deal with that guy, or you know what happens.
Both Stephen Fulton and MJ got mandatory challengers to satisfy.
Thus, it's too late to enter into negotiations for what would be an undisputed super bantamweight title fight. Not that I'm expecting that to happen. I'm not expecting that to happen. Unfortunately, in spite of what Stephen Fulton wants to do, what he says he wants to do, I really don't expect to see an undisputed champion crowned in this division between these two guys. I don't. The politics of boxing.
I'll see to that.
You know, I've given Stephen Fulton the benefit of the doubt. I believe he has an earnest interest in making that history and becoming this division's undisputed champion. But I don't believe that it's all on him, that it's up to him to make that decision. If it is, he may have to cross the street. He might have to do it on the DAZN side of things, because I don't see any effort from his team or his promotional outfit, the banner that he fights under. I don't see any effort from them to start talks for a fight like that, an undisputed super bantamweight title fight. I just don't see it happening. I don't see them doing it.
To be fair, I don't see MJ's people doing much about it either.
I really don't see that effort being made on either side of the aisle, either side of the argument. I don't know what offers from Matchroom, if any, have gone out to Stephen Fulton to bring him over for a one-off kind of situation to unify titles with MJ Akhmadaliev. I haven't seen quotes or sound bites or really anything in reference to a fight like that. I don't know that anybody's actually trying to do this fight behind closed doors. I just know that Stephen Fulton has made some mention of it. But behind the scenes, are the wheels actually in motion at all to do this thing?
Former unified champion Danny Roman wants his title shot. That's what we know.
And the fight's already been ordered jointly. That's what we know. Both Stephen Fulton and MJ Akhmadaliev fought 2 times last year. Both Stephen Fulton and MJ Akhmadaliev have mandatory challengers to satisfy, but there are no guarantees that if they are both successful in their next title defenses, that they're going to start talks to fight each other. Because if I'm being honest, those talks could have started, should have started already, and it doesn't look like they have.
As far as a Brandon Figueroa rematch, I don't want to see that.
I saw that fight, and it was a close fight. I thought that, Stephen Fulton might have let it slip away, but he got the decision, and I think he was very fortunate to get it. Better still, I have no interest in seeing a second fight. I have no interest in seeing a rematch. If I want to see anything, I want to see Stephen and MJ unify titles with each other. I don't want to see...
Yeah, I don't want to see a rematch.
And there was some mention made of it, a potential rematch between them, but I don't see the fucking point.
Why don't Brandon just move up to 126? He's very big for 122.
Maybe he can fight Mark Messiah.
Line himself up for his belt.